Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome everyone to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host Pauline, and today we are going to start off in, of course, March Madness with the women's side of the NCAA Basketball Tournament, as well as some updates in the NBA. There were quite a few games last night as well, and so we have a lot to get into as far as a recap. I did make one good prediction last night as far as the NBA is concerned with one of the matchups from last night. So I'm pretty excited about that, only because you guys know that I always predict incorrectly and I'm kind of like the doomsayer. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm really excited as we're moving into the last weeks of March Madness, the last weeks of March. There's just, I don't know, it's been an exciting month in the game of basketball, so it's been a lot of fun. I was last night at my other job discussing with a gentleman basketball and especially college basketball, and it's really interesting whenever you talk to someone else. I'm used to talking sports and basketball with Ben and Anthony on the sports show, and there's another host in here who does a lot of fantasy football and things like that. His name is Jeremiah. So I'm used to talking to these guys about basketball and sports, and so I kind of, for the most part, know their opinions on certain topics, but then it's really fun and interesting to talk to other fans of the game and to hear their opinions and things like that. So I was talking to a gentleman last night about basketball, and he is really he believes that this year is going to be the year that UConn falls in women's basketball. And he was very animated about it, and he was just saying, basically he was saying that they've been winning for too long and this is the year. I asked him why he felt that this was the year, and he just said that it was time. So that was fun. And it is interesting to see because, you know, as far as basketball is concerned, just basketball in general, UConn is so far one of those schools, is the school that just does not lose, the team that just does not lose. They literally have a winning program in every sense of the word. But anyway, so I'm going to recap women's college basketball starting from Friday, where it was the semifinals of the game. So we had number 5 Ohio State and number 1 Notre Dame. Ohio State lost to Notre Dame 76-99. And then we had number 4 Louisville take on number 1 Baylor over there in Oklahoma City. And Louisville lost 63-97 to Baylor in that game. Number 3 Texas took on number 2 Stanford. Stanford defeated Texas by 11, 66-77. Erica McCall was the top performer of that game for Stanford. She had 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists, so she was going hard in the paint in that game. Number 3, Washington took on number 2 Mississippi State. The Huskies lost to Mississippi State 64-75. Tiara McCowan of Mississippi State. She had 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists, the center for Mississippi State. So that was Friday night. And then we're jumping over to Saturday night, where we had number 4 UCLA take on number 1 Connecticut. And they gave them a run. They gave them a battle. UCLA lost 71-86. So not a blowout, not a bad game for UCLA, but then again, you are losing to Connecticut, who this season, just in the season alone, is 35-0. Then we had Winnipeg take on South Carolina. Now, South Carolina just blew them out 100-58. Kayla Davis of South Carolina, she had 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Number 10, Oregon, defeated number 3, Maryland. So a little upset in that one to, advance on to the Elite Eight, 77-63. And then number 3, Florida State upset. I guess you could kind of call it upset. I mean, they were ranked number 3. Number 2, they defeated number 2, Oregon State, 66-53 to advance them on into the Elite Eight. So a lot of fun games on Saturday. I was not able to make the games this past weekend. I went to high school basketball, the CIF championships here in California. I was invited to go watch a young man play who, we talked about this yesterday, but he's a really good friend of the family. So I went to go watch him, and we've known him for a very long time. So that was a lot of fun. And then, so Sunday in women's basketball, we had number 2 Stanford take on number 1 Notre Dame and defeat them by 1 point. So that was a major and huge game for Stanford to get it done in that game against Notre Dame, 76-75. And then we had number 2 Mississippi State take on and defeat number 1 Baylor, 94-85. Morgan William of Mississippi State, she had 41 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists to catapult Mississippi State into the Final Four for the very first time. So definitely a lot of excitement there. And then that brings us to last night, where number 10 Oregon faced off against number 1 UConn. UConn just gave them the business. They defeated them 90-52. And then Florida State lost to number 1 South Carolina 64-71. Kayla Davis of South Carolina, she had 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists in that win. So we have the Final Four set in women's side of basketball, and that is going to be number 2 Stanford taking on number 1 South Carolina. And then we have number 2 Mississippi State taking on number 1 Connecticut. So in the women's side of things, we have the number 1 and number 2 seeds left here in the Final Four. No really upsets, no one who really kind of snuck in. This is Mississippi State's first time, but no low seeds sneaking in to the Final Four for women's basketball. So those games are going to be played this Friday. So this weekend is just looking, we're going to start off the weekend with a lot of fun games in the Final Four. So Stanford and South Carolina are playing at 4:30. South Carolina, what an exciting time for you guys. You guys are playing great. If you're South Carolina, if you're a fan of South Carolina, you are excited. So whether you're a fan of women's or men's, but they are playing in Dallas, Texas, and number 2 and UConn are playing at 6:30 on Friday night. Those are Pacific times over in Dallas, Texas at the American Airlines Center. So a lot of fun on that side. And then I'm going to cut it to a quick break, but when I come back, I'm going to jump in and give you guys the finalists for the John Wooden Award on the women's side, and then we're going to jump into some NBA as well. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I will be right back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do. All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts basketball podcast. So, I'm your host, Pauline, but so on the women's side of things, the 5 finalists for the John R. Wooden Award have been, selected. So we've narrowed it down to 5 on the women's side of things. And 2 of them are sophomores from UConn. So we have Katie Lou Samuelson, who is currently leading UConn in scoring. She's averaging 20.7 points per game, as well as her teammate, Nafessa Collier, who is averaging 20.3 points and 9 rebounds per game. And so, together they are on that 35-0 season as of right now and are currently in the run for winning their 5th straight national championship as they continue on into the Final Four. And then we also have South Carolina's Asia Wilson, Washington's Kelsey Plum, and Ohio State's Kelsey Mitchell in the running to becoming the next John R. Wooden Award recipient. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. That's, a very high honor. Plum out of Washington with the Huskies. She's the only senior in the Final 5 this year. And she, we have a junior in Kelsey Mitchell out of Ohio State. The Buckeyes, they ended off the season with a 28-7 record. They went on to the Sweet 16, but lost to Notre Dame. And Mitchell has been averaging 22.6 points for Ohio State. So, this is going to be awarded on April 7th. So we have some time. They still have some time to battle it out. But then, and then Wilson from South Carolina, she is a junior, a Gamecock here, and she is averaging 17.9 points per game, and they might be the one to upset someone this weekend in the Final Four. So a lot of things to look forward to on the women's side of basketball as we get into that. And then now switching gears a little bit into now, because we don't have too much, we kind of recapped men's side of things on yesterday with Ben. So not too much yet happening there as far as games are concerned until this weekend. So if you guys are going to the Final Four, I am very, 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 very jealous. I am considering, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. So let's jump into the games in the NBA. We're shifting gears into the NBA side of things, and I'm going to give you guys a recap of the games from last night. So the Orlando Magic went to go take on the Toronto Raptors last night. Fell to them. A pretty high-scoring game on both sides of the court, but just was not enough for the Magic. The Magic had 112 points. Peyton for the Magic had 22 points, 1 rebound, and 9 assists. But the Toronto Raptors defeated the Magic in that game, scoring 131 points. DeMar DeRozan, of course, no surprise, was the top performer for the Raptors. He had 36 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Detroit Pistons took on the New York Knicks, lost to them 95-109. Kristaps Porzingis, top performer for the Knicks last night. Good for him. He had 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists in that home winner last night against the Pistons. Now, this is where I was kind of excited because, no shade, because you guys know I love LeBron. I totally and fully love LeBron. But I did mention last night that I did believe that the Spurs were going to defeat the Cavaliers. I just, the the Cavaliers haven't been on the up and up right now. And the Spurs are kind of that team who is, I always say they're kind of like a quiet assassin type thing, because a silent assassin, we kind of sometimes, you can almost forget about them because there's not a lot of antics. There's not a lot of off-court drama that happens between any of the players or the players in the media. They don't really, they're not going to do a lot of extra press time. They kind of just go to work, get the job done, go home, relax, chill to the next practice or next game. There's not really a lot of, like I said, not a lot of antics. There's not a lot of drama, which is fine. There's no problem with that. It's actually probably best as far as that's concerned. They're not really out there. Very rarely, if ever, I don't think I've ever really heard of a Spurs player, tweeting a rant or posting a video of some nonsense or getting in trouble, really. They're a pretty well-cut team. But anyway, so the Spurs defeated the Cavaliers in San Antonio 103-74. Major loss for the Cavaliers. LeBron James, he had 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Kawhi Leonard, of course, he had 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists to make him the top performer in that game. But, it is what it is. The Cavaliers, I know they're trying a lot of different things out right now. They're trying to find their flow still, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes, because the Cavaliers are no longer in first in the East. Interesting fact with that. So, the Spurs, like I said, they're a try-and-true team, and they're 57-16 right now. They're fine. They're, like I said, they're kind of like that quiet guy that just still wins and dependable. The Oklahoma City Thunder bounced back from that loss the other day, defeating the Mavericks by just one, but enough. 92-91. Westbrook, 37 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, triple-double again. No surprise there. And Noel of the Dallas Mavericks, 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 assist. Then my Kings again. We're on the up and up. We defeated the Grizzlies last night by 1. How funny. 90-91. Darren Collison, the top performer of the game last night, 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists for Darren Collison for, my squad in that win last night against the Grizzlies. And then we had the Pelicans and the Utah Jazz. But, Anthony Davis, he had 36 points, 17 rebounds, and 3 assists, consistent day in and day out. But not enough to get it done against Rudy and the Utah Jazz. Rudy had 20 points, 19 rebounds, and 1 assist. So the Pelicans fell to the Jazz on the road 100-108. So that was the recap for the games of last night. Tomorrow we have quite a few games as well. So some games this week to ease us into, kind of take up our time as we wait for the final 4 games that start this weekend on Friday. So I'm going to take it to the last break of the show today. And then when I come back, I'm going to give you guys kind of like a preview of what to expect from today, as well as give you guys some latest news around the basketball court. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'll be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and we are getting ready to wrap up this episode of the show. But before we do, there's a few topics that we have to discuss and some news to give you guys before the end of the show as far as just basketball in general. So, okay, in the NBA, so last night the Cavaliers lost to the Spurs, and hard loss, 103-74. And when asked about the loss last night, this is how LeBron James responded. So he said, "It's a delicate time right now for our team. A lot of people talking, guys in the locker room. I'm not saying it's for the bad. We got a couple guys that's shown leadership, some guys that's been in the fray before that's giving their opinions. I've learned over the season there's a time and place for it, certain situations. I kind of wait for the right time, so my time will come." So right now, he knows basically not to kind of say too much because it can get amplified. It can be really digested and dissected by the media and things like that. And that because they are kind of in a rough, in a rut right now, that he knows not to like speak out too much because things can always turn around. Things could get worse. Things could a lot get better as well too. So kind of right now is a kind of the time to basically just let it, he's choosing his words wisely, which I think is smart because a lot of times I think people, when they're frustrated, especially players, when their team is going down and then you get it amplified, and especially a player like LeBron where, people really look deep into what he says and what he rants. But it's interesting to me because he doesn't want to say anything, but then he does go on Twitter rants. And I don't know. I just feel like some people just should not tweet ever, especially athletes during season, off season, in regards to anything. Because I don't know. It just can be misinterpreted in so many different ways, and it can just blow up out of proportion. But I don't know. That's just kind of, just kind of, I guess, how it is in sports, especially when you're a public figure like this and like a celebrity that everybody's looking into. So, but the Spurs, of course, got it done. They did what they normally do. See, even in a win against the Cavaliers, the main talk is how the Cavaliers and LeBron is feeling. It's not really the Spurs side because the Spurs don't really the topics in the press being discussed is the Cavaliers. It's not the Spurs. The Spurs don't really get into the media like that. They don't really do all of that. So we'll see. Hopefully the Cavaliers will be able to bounce back from this and get it together before before it snowballs and that snowball effect happens. So anyways, moving on to the Atlanta Hawks. So Paul Millsap is actually going to be out it was just announced last night really. He's going to be out for 3 games. He just had a minor, it looks like, a non-surgical procedure. He was diagnosed with just left knee synovitis. So he had a non-surgical procedure there and is going to have to sit out for the next 3 games. And of course, he will be updated and kind of like more of a timeline as they need. But as the way it looks like right now, it's just going to be, he's just going to have to sit out the next 3 games. So hopefully that's all it will take. And you guys know that I really do like it when people, I'm always very cautious and I kind of get, I'm like, I hope that everything's okay, especially when players, because, their knees, ankles, all that feet are really big deals when it comes to that. Like DeMarcus Cousins, it looks like this was announced the other day that he did not play against the Nuggets on Sunday this past weekend because of a sprained right ankle. So he didn't do shoot around on Sunday. He didn't feel comfortable enough to play. And so this happened in their loss on Friday night to the Rockets. So he's going to be reevaluated. He was reevaluated yesterday and will be determined, kind of how that's going to go and what treatments he's going to need. So I know I'm not kind of the news that you want when you move over to a new team. So I'm sure the Pelicans are really concerned about him as well. So hopefully that will all turn up for the better. And other great news, Russell Westbrook, like I said earlier, has now had 37 triple doubles. And I'm telling you, I don't know why the boys don't believe me, but he's going to average that triple double for the rest of the season. It's just how it's going to go. It's just too effortless. It seems too effortless for Westbrook. He literally does it. And I mean, I know you want to do it and have your team win as well, because, you know, that just adds to it. You don't want to be that guy who just keeps racking up triple doubles, but your team is terrible. So, you know, but at the same time, I'm wanting him to average that triple double on the year and to continue doing what he does in Westbrook fashion. And so before we get ready to wrap up this episode, I wanted to share some kind of pretty exciting news. I'm sure some people are kind of tiptoeing and kind of teetering between whether or not this is a good thing, but Commissioner Adam Silver, says that he wants it to happen sooner rather than later in regards to having a female head coach in the NBA. He did say, I quote, "There definitely will, and I think it's on me to sort of ensure that it happens sooner rather than later." We know that there are some female NBA coaches right now who are on staff as assistant coaches. We have Becky Hammon, who just recently turned down the job in Florida and is remaining with the Spurs. So there's a lot going on, and I'm interested because, you know, Adam Silver, he has a lot of different ideas that he wants to bring and some changes that he wants to bring into the NBA. Sacramento, the Kings, we have Nancy Lieberman as well. And so there are quite a few. The Clippers also have Natalie Nikasi, who is the assistant video coordinator, who also has aspirations of being a NBA head coach. So I'm not, you know, I don't think that it's if there will be, it's more of a matter of when there will be. And so it's going to be really interesting, you know, to see how he brings this into fruition. I'm interested to see how it's going to be. I'm interested to see when it's going to be. I'm interested to see who it's going to be that first person, that first woman to, you know, become a head coach. It's going to definitely be something difficult to, you know, kind of break into that, but it's, you know, chipping away. So it's going to be interesting to see. We do have a female official in the NBA, Lauren Holtkamp. So as far as like right now, who is currently officiating in the NBA. So we'll see how it goes. I kind of like, so far, I'm kind of on board with some of the things that Commissioner has been proposing, you know, with hiring the age limit. I'm still half and half on that one. Some days I'm all for it. Some days I'm kind of not, because, you know, I don't know how it's going to affect everything in the long run. But then, like Ben and I were saying in the podcast last night, we were talking about how now you have teams like the not San Antonio, but the Phoenix Suns, who are on average, their starters are 21 and younger. So it's interesting to see, because now we're thinking guys like LeBron, who, I mean, he's older, yes, but is he really old, or is he just old compared to the fact that we now have 19-year-olds in the NBA and he's been playing for such a long time? So is he really, you know, I was having a conversation with someone about DeMarcus Cousins, and they were telling me how old he was. And I was thinking to myself, DeMarcus is younger than I am. You know, I think we're the same age, 24. So I don't know. So we'll see. But anyway, so the commissioner has said sooner rather than later, we will see sometime soon a female head coach. I don't know what team. I don't know where. So we'll see. We'll have to see when that comes about. So that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. Ben will be in tomorrow morning, and I'll talk to you guys on Thursday.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.